Coming up on today's episode, we take a look at Shudder's new creature feature, Infested. Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, we have one major rule around here, folks. No spoilers. Now that we got that out of the way, there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score up to 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes: residents of a rundown French apartment building battle against an army of deadly, rapidly reproducing spiders. Director Sebastian Vanisek makes his feature film directorial debut, and he does not disappoint. The movie looks great. The shots are well composed and framed nicely. The director makes some interesting artistic choices behind the camera that help elevate the horror action. My one major gripe with this production was the poor lighting during some of the horror scenes. It made it difficult to decipher the action at times. Overall though, the movie was a success. It's pieced together well, and the sound editing really helps with the horror and the suspense on screen. Hearing those little spiders click and click and click, they really help elevate that suspense and that tension and that horror every chance they get. And they did a great job with that sound editing, and as the spiders grow in size, the clicking gets even louder, and it's very effective. As I mentioned before, the director does make some interesting artistic choices behind the camera. Some work, some don't work. I definitely enjoyed how he framed the spider's point of view. It was an interesting take and something I haven't seen before. I think he did a good job with that and definitely hit in some scenes. In other scenes, that camera work didn't hit as well, but overall the movie was executed well, and everything this first-time director did was a success. And for the solid execution of this movie, this production gets a 1 for their hard work. I do wish they picked better lighting sources, but overall, everything worked. The script was written by Florent Bernard. This is his first feature film, and he does a commendable job with the story. The story and the script is paced well. There's very little expositional lull impeding the progress of this story. The first 2 acts flow well and really help keep the audience engaged.
Quoi, ça t'intéresse les bestioles? Mais ça m'intéresse à mort. Fais gaffe quand même, hein. T'inquiète, je te dis. Moi, je suis un pro. Je te ramène à la maison. Let's go.
The third act is a mixed bag, unfortunately. There are good things and bad things accomplished in this act. I, for one, was not a fan of the ending of this film and really brought up some unnecessary questions at the end that had no answers. I did not like how at the end they all of a sudden forgot that they were doing horror, and they really forgot to keep up the intensity of what they tried to accomplish earlier in that act. It was a detriment in my opinion. Others might see it differently, but I think it was a little gutless at the end, and I wish they would have taken a different approach with the ending. Another thing that also stands out in the story is the lore behind the spiders. We really don't get much. We don't get much explanation. We don't get much of anything, really. We know they come from the desert and they reproduce at a very high rate, and then they grow and they adapt as they go, but we don't know how long it takes. We don't know exactly how much time they've been in this building, maybe 48 hours or so. But that is something that needs to be addressed, because one of the characters, or 2 of the characters I should say, are fans of exotic animals, and that is part of their core character. And I'm just surprised no one bothered to Google this species of spider and realize, like, wait a minute, this is not a good thing to keep in an apartment. So that was a little disappointing because the character work was well done, and we'll get to that in the next segment. For the fun story we got and the very interesting creature feature take that we got in this movie, this story deserves a 1 for their hard work. I do wish the ending would have been a little bit more impactful, a little bit more intense, especially with the craziness that was going on there. But ultimately, the story was fun. It was a good watch. It was well put together. It was well written. I really enjoyed the dialogue and the chemistry that the actors had, and we'll get to that in the next segment. But the story was done well. It was executed at a good level, especially for a first-time writer. So kudos to him. The cast did a good job with their individual roles. It was definitely a team effort to pull this one off. Everyone played their part well, and it helped the protagonist, Caleb, played by Theo Christine, shine. He was a major part of this movie, and a major part of why I enjoyed this movie. I thought he did a great job with his character. He was natural. He had great dynamics with everyone around him. I think the rest of the cast had great dynamics with each other, also helping elevate all these scenes and helping elevate the friendships that they had and the relationships that they had. I do have one major gripe with the character work here. There is one huge unearned emotional moment in the second act that did not hit well with me. I think it was overdrawn and over the top. You understand a little bit of the emotion, but I think it's unearned. We don't spend enough time with these characters to really understand their full relationship to that point of grief. And it was just a little off-putting because it was very drawn out, and I think they could have cut that a little shorter and still had the same impact. But as mentioned before, the overall cast did their thing, and they deserve full kudos for this story. And for the really good cast and the good dynamics that they had and the good dialogue and banter and back and forth that they had with each other, this movie deserves a 2 for Ensemble. There was plenty of horror to go around in this movie. The spiders in this flick were all CG, but they looked really good. They were effective and downright gnarly. These creepy crawlies kept me engaged and had me looking around my own walls throughout the viewing of the film. The spiders offered up plenty of brutal and fun kills. The filmmakers definitely knew where to spend their time and their budget, and it shows. These spiders were pretty awesome. As I said before in story, I wish they explained it a little more, but explanation and exposition aside, when these things are around and they're growing and clicking and clacking, it is super scary. I don't like insects myself, so I definitely felt the cringiness of the entire horror scenes here. It was very effective. And as I said, everything was CG, but it was very well done. I'm not sure if they had any practical spiders aside from maybe the small iterations of it, and even then I'm not too sure. But that is a very good sign because it worked seamlessly with the movie and it was not a detraction at all with the story. I thought they did a great job with this CG, and as the spiders grew, they got gnarlier and gnarlier and scarier, and I think that was conveyed very well throughout the entire movie and how effective these spiders can kill. There is practical effects in this movie. A bunch of the makeup you get is practical, especially the spider wounds and everything, and that looked really good as well. So they were able to execute all facets of their horror very well. And for the awesome spider action and the creepy crawlies that I feel are still everywhere on the walls, this movie gets a very solid 2 and full score for horror. They did a great job with the CG here. It was effective, it was scary, and it definitely made this film very watchable. I really had fun with this movie. The ending wasn't my favorite and lacked intestinal fortitude, as I mentioned before, but the spiders were very, very effective, and it's all I could think about at the end. Even now, as I'm talking to you here and doing this review, I'm still looking around my walls all paranoid, making sure I don't hear any of those clicks. If I feel that way a day after the movie, I think it was very well executed in terms of the spider horror. I do wish the ending had a little bit more oomph behind it to really flesh out and end this story well. I think the first 2 acts were definitely a success. They definitely didn't carry that over, and that is where it loses points with me, as well as the lighting. It got very dark in that movie and you couldn't tell what was going on. But all that aside, I think this was a fun, well-executed creature feature. And for the spiders and the awesomeness of the kills and how they all clicked and clacked and all looked very good on screen, this movie scores a 1 for legacy. Like I said, I wish the ending was better, I wish it was better lit, and I wish they explained the spider stuff a little bit more because that was really the cool stuff we wanted to see more of. So to tally it up, Infested received a 1 for production, a 1 for story, a 2 for ensemble, a 2 for horror, and a 1 for legacy, bringing its total score up to 7. This was a fun watch. It wasn't the greatest creature feature I've seen because of the lacking elements I've mentioned throughout the review, but it was definitely a movie you can sit down and enjoy. We got another movie this year as well with a big spider, and I think in comparison, this one works a little better. Sting was good, but this one, because of the amount of spiders you get, I think is more effective. Sting had some really good kills and very close-up work of that one spider, but just the fact that you have so many here and they pretty much just infest this entire building complex, it's definitely a sight to see and a fun watch for Shudder. I'm glad Shudder is picking up the pace and releasing some really good stuff for us here now in the springtime. I cannot wait to see what else they have in store for us the rest of the year. Go watch Infested on Shudder now.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and leave the thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell all your friends, your family, and their pets to come on down to YouTube. Subscribe to CorpseFeed. We have spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys dropping every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On top of that, we have the official CorpseFeed podcast, The Morgue, dropping every Tuesday anywhere you get your podcast streams. We are on all the socials. Go like, subscribe, and share there as well. We would highly appreciate it. Don't forget to leave us a review on the podcast as well, and any other suggesting comments down below. We will see you on Wednesday for another episode, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.